And welcome back. So we're out of the Swiss rounds here at the European Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship 2022 live from Antwerp. And we're now into our first feature map of the top 128. This is very exciting. We're on the home straight for this tournament. We're going to see who's going to be taking home that title and who's going to be taking away some of those prizes. So let's not dally around. We're getting straight into our first round of the 128. We have Pietro Dardini, and we also have the Greek national champ, Stephanos Fostieris. So you guys have already done a dice roll, so we're not gonna have any of that ceremony going on here. So you won that, Pietro, didn't you? So I'm going to let you guys crack on and hand you guys over to our wonderful Italian team who very sadly didn't win the quiz, but are going to do great with this commentary.
Hi everyone and welcome to the first ever top 128 for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Event. We can't be more excited than this to show you guys, and we picked a great one to start things off. As Ed mentioned, I know Stephanos pretty well. He's the Greek national champion because he beat me in the finals this year, and he did with a very unique deck, a Nero deck that no one saw and expected, and it was mainly built to beat Despia. And now apparently he transitioned to the enemy. If you can't beat them, join them. And he's playing Despia, but he's playing Predaplan Despia. So a very thin Despia engine with a lot of Predaplan cards. And I have to say I'm a big fan of this engine, at least against the Sprite.
Yeah, especially because like you have a really good matchup against them. You can put big bodies on the field, but like the interactions along themselves are very powerful. And still, he decided to play like this kind of engines also at the national championship, as you said, very different from the standard ones we are used to seeing. And then on the other side, he's playing against another deck we have previously featured this weekend, which is Flounder.
Absolutely, it seems like Italians, and you can't blame him after Flowanders pretty much dominated Italian nationals. Pietro, another Italian player, bringing the deck that won it. So he's on Flowanders, which I think will be a terrible news for the Greek champion. As we mentioned, the great thing about the engine is, of course, the Predaplan counters as they make the level 1 monsters. It is extremely annoying for Sprite specifically to deal with that, as they require level 2 monsters to get going. And I'm sure that's going to be an incredible matchup for Stephanos. When it comes to this one, though, I think on top of them all, Dimension Shifter, if Pietro opens that card, it shuts down completely the Greek player deck. Without further ado, though, let's find out who will advance to the top 64, and let's jump into the table. Here they go, and Pietro does open up with a Pot of Duality. Unfortunately, the Shifter is a little too late to the party, but he's finding map, which is a great opening tool. And you can already tell, I don't think Stephanos is even maining Entrops. Let's check real quick, but yeah, that's a tough one nonetheless.
Yeah, Stephanos is playing, you know, Ash Blossom along with Effect Veilers. Yeah. But he has Dark Ruler no more, I think, that most and of the players.
It does open the Dark Ruler with, of course, great against combo decks, but really, really strong against Flowanders as well.
And now what we've seen usually from the Flowanders is that they really need a normal summon for the turn to get things off. And they have the Eagle with the Robina.
Yeah. Something interesting I would like to see from Pietro is that usually in the previous events we saw Flowanders end on the statue, but with Dark Lure getting more popular, usually they actually keep it in the end to use next turn with the trap card. So let's see if he does go for this decision, and I think it's the correct one.
Yeah.
Dreaming Town can just bring it later on. And you get to pretty much ask your opponent to first deal with the Empen, and then have the statue ready just in case.
And I'm just checking in the Pietro's list, and he only plays one copy of Mystic Minds, which usually this is something that we don't see quite often. from what we saw yesterday with Diego's list, the current Italian national champion was playing 3. But anyway, here
he does go for the statue, which is gonna be a big punish, but interesting. He goes for this 3, so we might see a dimension shifter nonetheless. Let's see. As I mentioned, the statue being summoned this early, not a big fan of, but the shifter is so strong, and here he comes, so he does have the shifter. This is huge against the Stephanos deck.
Yeah, it really relies on the graveyard a lot, all the branded cards, along with the Predaplant monsters. That might hurt a lot. I think we will see the Dark Looter no more. Here he comes. I think he has the opening he will go for. Maybe also has the Preda practice.
Yeah, the snow is there, the opening is there, but all of these cards are not that efficient when the shifter is there. So for now, though, I think Pietro might read this, but he actually knows it, I think.
Yeah, he goes with the Preda practice.
Yep.
I mean, maybe you were not expecting to play against Predaplant in the top cut, but again, if you are able to put up in the very first game, you can basically summon the Scorpio, which Stephanos did.
Yeah, which is great, because as you all know, you can just unfortunately not use the effect because it doesn't say discard, it says send as cost to the graveyard, so shifter prevents it, but still you get to add a card from your deck, and he's trying his best to maneuver around this incredible opening by Pietro.
And still we've seen how powerful the shifter has been throughout the whole week, and causing problems to basically every single deck of the format. It's a good card. We have seen also Sprite players siding in by going second. It's very good generic cards by starting things off. And now we see the
and he does go for the Clammy, but that will trigger the field spell from Pietro. He goes for his combos, and I don't think there is another piece of interruption in the end from Stephanos. So this could be actually a very, very quick game 1, because if he goes for the Ryza here, this smells incredible trouble, so let's see. Yeah, and he does go for the Ryza, so very well maneuvered here. We mentioned it already how maybe it wasn't the most straightforward deck to bring to this event. Not the most popular option either, but it's still very strong.
Yeah, so. I mean, I will be very scary to play against Flawanderies, especially in the top cut, because it's one of these decks that if really gets things going through, now Stephanos is in trouble.
An interesting play here, as you can see from the Italian, who actually takes back the statue, because thanks to the Dreaming Town, he can just bring it back to the field afterwards, and definitely well played by him, but I don't think there is much else going on. He has the talent, so Stephanos will have to decide how to use the triple tactics talent. Let's see. Which effect do you think he would go for? Maybe take?
Yeah, I think I'll go for it, because if you want to go to draw 2 cards, then
yeah, what can you even do? And just in case things go wrong for Pietro this turn, he actually reveals the end. Nice. So we get to see an RP Feather Duster in the main deck already being drawn by Pietro. But he will put back the statue.
Do you like Stephanos' option to go saying the hand rather than taking a monster?
It was interesting, but I want to see how much he can push here, because opening is activated, of course, but I mean, do you get the 1 copy of Aluber here? He's only playing 1, as I mentioned, very thin Despia engines. He mostly want to rely on the Predaplants and just play free opening alongside the fusions and 1 Aluber to get it. So of course you don't want to open it.
Because now, even if you get the opening, basically, what do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of how Pietro, in the end, decided to go for that Ryza play. I gotta say, it was interesting for sure, but maybe a little excessive by that point. I think he could have waited longer with it. But now there is the branded fusion, and he actually changed the town to it. So
Okay.
interesting stuff. So the fusion resolves, and unfortunately, he won't be able to have much. I don't think he's even playing Tragedy, right?
No.
Yeah.
I think he is.
So this will not be that impressive from Stephanos, but what can you do?
Yeah, goes with the Albion. Makes sense.
So now Robina already used it, but with the effect of 3 now he can choose to go for any of the smaller ones. He could get the Toucan to get the Dreaming Town back, or just go for a statue, which is interesting, as you can see here, because then in resolution he won't be able to resolve his effect. So nicely done by Pietro. He doesn't have to do much, essentially.
Yeah.
He's gonna ask his opponent to waste his battle phase right now, and then still gets to keep most of his board. So I think in the end, shaky line, but still getting things done. So
Yeah, because like basically you let your opponent, let's say, waste the battle phase. You basically use the statue. But
and yeah, unfortunately, Stephanos has done enough. The play is back to Pietro, who is fully in control. He can pretty much do whatever he wants. So I would expect the Greek player to just pick up his card quite soon. We saw it multiple times throughout the Swiss how these matches tend to be very grindy before side deck, but I think Pietro just showing once again why you should never underestimate the Flow Wanderers deck.
And now, especially because like Stephanos is left basically a top deck.
Yeah.
And I think Pietro here can really hurt Stephanos, like being left with pretty much
Yeah, this
no
is
response.
super easy, and as you mentioned, he can just get to the Apex. Is he playing just one Empen? Most are at the moment. Let's check it just to make sure. Yeah, just the one copy of Empen, so the only target left is the Apex Avian. Nonetheless, it does what it needs him to do, but yeah, this is so much advantage. 5 cards in hand from the Italian player, still not stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, I think we will see the Apex here, and then
yeah, he goes for the Avian, and this seems very locked for the Italian. Nice sequence, I think, in the previous turn, and now he gets to attack over his opponent, who will be able to get, I think he's only playing the branded fusions, right? Or maybe one copy of red. Let's check. Usually in this version you don't really play others. Yeah, so mainly the fusion. He does play one banishment, to be fair, so maybe we could see that. We know it's extremely good in the tier element matchup, but not quite against Flow Wanderers.
but if you were Stephanos now, would you consider to go into game 2? Like, of course, you want to see the top deck.
Yeah. You're gonna wait for a while now, but this with the Dreaming Town being added to end potentially once again, it's locking the game for the Italian player. As we mentioned, though, and we probably will be able to talk more about the decks that made it into the top cut, it's the first time ever we get to showcase a top 128, and the meta was already quite diverse at the beginning, and you can imagine that in such a wide top cut, you have a lot of different decks.
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting this to happen, especially because, like, we said it in our meta discussion that tier elements as Sprite would have been most likely the most played decks, but on the other side, the format is so well shaped that there are a lot of different decks. And here, yeah, we can see that Pietro just won game 1.
As you can see, he gets to negate in the end phase. The Apex is sent back to the end, and Pietro convincingly takes this game 1. Well played. And now we get to take a look at the side decks, though, and it's going to be an interesting one. What do you think the Italian will actually bring in? Since going second with Full Wonder is always kind of shaky, I guess.
And seeing that Pietro is playing Ultimate Slayer, a card we haven't seen actually this weekend so far, is very powerful. By going second, basically gets rid of a lot of your opponent solution. I think we might seeing it being sided in by Pietro. And he has a couple of cards for going second as well, like evenly matched, which we could be saying.
Yeah, for sure. Evenly, Ultimate Layer, as you mentioned, one of the most discussed cards, I would say. Mouth to mouth, it was, you know, heard by a lot of players just how good the card is. We couldn't get to see it in action, so maybe now in the top card we will. And I think I really like the addition of the Evil Twins engine to just make it even better for a +1. But on his opponent's sides, I'm not sure how well he can be prepared against Flow Wanderers.
No, because like you're for sure prepared to play against the meta, you know, tier elements and sprites. Indeed, we are seeing he plays going second cards such as Pancratops, and then Alpha, which is like a sort of Pancratops, let's say. But you know, there's the barrier which we're not going to see.
It's tough because, as we mentioned, the opening and again, looking at Stephanos' deck, it is one of those decks that going first can set up a lot. You can set up the Preda planning and then make all of your opponent level 1 and negated by Stapelia, which is good even against Flow Wonder. So that's the plan. But then going second, it's kind of weak, and that's why you see pretty much all of the side decks for going second. The only card I could see come in would be Ghost Ogre. It's really good against the Field Spell from the Flow Wanderers. And of course, RP Feather Duster and Red Rebuke are always cards you keep in, even going second against such decks. But again, if Shifter comes down, Stephanos most likely will just pass turn. Anyway, our players are ready, so let's see if Stephanos can even the score, or we'll see just a SHUEISHA with victory. So here they come, as mentioned, Stephanos really looking to start things off with his combos, and he does so with a branded fusion. Let's see if there is any response. There is not, so not Shifter twice in a row at least. The Greek fans will be happy about that. And I think, yeah, you're just trying to go for the Predaplant engine. Yeah, no surprise here. We get to see essentially the tragedy for Predaplants, which is the Bliss. So you get to add any Predaplant monster next. Usually depends if you get to the Scorpio or just one of the Pendulum monsters. So let's see.
And I think this is what I really like about this format, because like even playing these small packages, as we saw like in very different decks with the Adventure deck or Punk, you basically play very few cards, but then you can make so many things. Like
absolutely, and unfortunately, it does open Cobra, one of the, of course, weaklings of the Predaplant engines, but you can still get it done. One of the key cards in this deck, and of course, thanks to Eastern Fusion, once again, would be the Predaplant Ambulomelides. So it's really, really strong. We'll see if he will be able to bring it up. But for now, he gets the Scorpio. Not a surprise. For now, he resolves the Lubellion and usual stuff.
And I think this is the first time that we see a Mirror Jade today, a card that has caused and still causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really strong against like Sprite specifically, but even against other matchups, it's still a very annoying card to deal with, even just for the body alone, because then the Regeki-like effect in the end phase is nothing to be disrespecting. So now the Scorpio, no entraps for Pietro. He will try his best to just break the board, something we have seen in a lot of decks, just cutting all these entraps and focusing more on cars like Dark Ruler, Talent, Super Poly, you know, all of those going second cars.
Yeah, I'm looking at Pietro's list, and yeah, he only has, he doesn't play any entraps apart from the shifter.
Yeah. And as expected here, we get to see a Fusion Summon go off and probably and arguably the best card in the extra deck for the deployment deck, which now will get him the Preda Planning if he feels like it, which is an incredible trap card. As you can read now on the screen, it pretty much puts a token on every monster of your opponent, and against Sprite, it's essentially an auto-win button.
Yeah.
So
That's a good plan, huh?
Ah. So. Ooh, surprisingly enough, though, it does go for adding a Pendulum Monster, so maybe he does already have the planning. He's playing free, I think. Very surprising. No, just the one.
No,
copy,
just
okay.
one. He takes the Bufolica.
Yeah, Bufolica is added to the end. Definitely an unusual opening for the deck, but yeah, Stapelia is needed, and if he has planning in the end, this is so strong.
Okay, this is not something that you usually see, because like we are used to seeing, you know, Preda Planning. 6th card was the shifter.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Shifter picked up off the top as a 6th card. Not gonna be as good as he wanted, but still quite relevant because you cannot use the Mirror Jade anymore. So it's better late than never, I guess. So, do you think it's worth just using it now, or would you wait? Because I guess might as well to just get a search in the end phase, but it doesn't. So. Let's look at the end. Ooh, the Book of Moon is gonna be so good for Pietro.
Yeah, he plays 2 copies, and I think he could be the only one player playing Book of Moon in the top cut.
Absolutely, Book of Moon, one of the top unusual cards of this weekend, but we might just see it be completely crazy. In this case, though, he even had the engine out to the Stapelia, so this is not looking good for the Greek player.
I actually like it, because even in the Sprite match, you can basically...
It's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane.
Absolutely great. As we mentioned, many of these decks, and even the Rickas and Avalon deck, which is doing super well, we have a couple in the top cut, can get shut down.
Yep.
If you just put the low C face down with the Book of Moon, maybe they struggle a little bit. But for now, Flowunder is doing Flowunder's things, and it's gonna be great, great opening. And when you open the town, it does so much for you. Every time you tribute someone, you get a card off your opponent, and it's such a great interaction.
And we saw Pietro having sided in the Ultimate Slayers. So, yeah. Maybe we will see that in action.
Such a strong opening, once again using all of his interaction to the best abilities. He can get a copy of the trap card right away, so the town, let's see. Or just a field spell and push forward. Yeah, I think the trap is a no-brainer here, and with the Ryza in hand, this is so much advantage from the Italian player.
This is what you're really looking for when playing the Flowunder's deck. You really need really one card to start things off.
Yeah.
If you draw into the Eagle, not the Rubina, then it gets even crazier. And by having the trap card, then with the Rise as well, Book of Moon, wow. Stree.
Yeah, Stree pushing forward. He could go into an interesting loop next turn with the Ryza and the Shifter. But for now, he will just play it as safe as possible, get rid of all of his opponent, and even go for the really cool interaction, which is when you use the Ryza this way, you can put the Shifter on top, get it back, and then do it every turn. And then, as he mentioned, he just sends the Jade back to the extra deck, so it won't be able to trigger. Yeah, it's not once per turn, unfortunately for Stephanos, and this is absolutely devastating. Rides such a unique card. It does so much for the deck. Not only does he get rid of a lot of cards, and you can just see the card advantage getting extremely out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, we said it before how good the Dimensional Shifter is. I mean, it's winning games and games.
And at the end, he decides not to put the shifter on top, and he basically puts a dead card on his opponent. I think Cobra was the choice, and it's a great interaction. You said how Spiral is your favorite deck, and the Spiral Drone still gives nightmares to people just because you know you were top decking into something useless. And now Stefano picks up a useless card, sets a bluff, plays back to the Italian, who now can freely just go through the remaining life points from his opponent, and this will be swiftly over with the talent face down being the only card that he can activate, but with the Apex negating it. I don't think the Greek can do anything. So incredible stuff by Pietro, who will take a convincing 2-0 victory, moving forward to the top 64.
Yeah.
Great match. Congratulations to both. What a win from Pietro and what a win from Flowanders once again.
I mean, we said it before, like, Flowander is one of these decks that I think you don't really want to face because, like, the Dimensional Shifter is huge in every single matchup at this point in the tournament because, like, by itself, it won Pietro 2 games. But also it allows you to play, like, on only one card, having the Eagle, then it gets you access to the Amp, and if you really want to the Horizon, then it gets crazier and crazier, and especially because, like, your opponents, I think, are scared of this deck.
Absolutely, and we mentioned it a few times. When you're playing in such a huge event, 19 rounds total, and you're aiming to win it, you need some unfair cards. You need those cards which are gonna win you a game by themselves, and Shifter is surely one of them. The Italian opened it in game 1, and it absolutely crushed the Greek hopes. And in game 2, the card is that powerful that even top decked as a 6th card, it still was so annoying for the Despia deck.
Yeah, indeed, we couldn't see how powerful Stephanos' deck is because of Shifter. Like,
absolutely.
This weekend we have seen, I think, a lot of times Shifter being played and even being sided in, as I said before, by Sprite itself.
Yeah.
Because, like, it gives you a lot of access and it's, like, super versatile. But in these kind of matchups in which you really rely on your graveyard, it completely shuts down your strategy.
But I think the most successful players are doing some unfair things. Let's say they either side into, you know, Sanctum, which I really love, is one of those cards which just shuts down most decks. And the same can be done for the Flowanders deck. It has the RP Feather Storm. Incredible card. Like, pretty much only Red Reboot is an option against it. Otherwise, you pretty much Shockmaster your opponent, is forced to pass their turn. Most decks are. And alongside Shifter and the consistency of playing 8 to 9 different pots, so from Prosperity, Extravagance, Duality, it gets you to those unfair cards. And I think this is one of the reasons why we're seeing even the Italian national champion doing very well this weekend. So Flowander is definitely one of the deck. It is there. If you disrespected it, it's gonna get to you. And I think for sure we're gonna see more of it. As a reminder, now Pietro is locked in for top 64, and still there are some few rounds remaining, and they will do their best to be crowned the 2022 European champion. Now we're gonna, of course, keep an eye on the top tables and try to provide you guys a little bit of what's going on, what decks are still there, if our picks are still up for the race. And we have some big names among the top cuts, right?
Yeah, we have YCS champions. We have our 2022 Italian national champion still inside. I saw him playing the top cut.
We have multiple YCS champions as well. We have either players who have been doing really well, just sneaking in with an X3-1 record, actually, such as Federico Mecozzi. Of course, we have to mention him, and if he gets to manage and lose in the finals this time, he will achieve the impossible, losing at a national, European championship and YCS in the finals, so the triplet. But without further ado, I think we have our winner in a very few moments. Pietro, again, one of the Italians who will be having a talk with us. As you mentioned, we will ask him if maybe Diego was an inspiration for him. At the Italian National Championship, Flow Wanderers was also disrespected in a way.
Yep.
It wasn't the top deck of the format. A lot of players did not have side deck cards for it. Diego again played it at this European Championship and he's doing well with it. So we'll ask him if the inspiration came from the Italian Championship and maybe even if he competed at the event. And you know, it's possible that he lost to the deck and he was like, oh wow, this deck is good, man. Let's keep it rolling and let's see if he's gonna do well for this event. But yeah, now let's go back to Ed and Pietro for the winner interview.
Thank you, Marcello. Yes, I'm joined by Pietro right here. First of all, congratulations. The first victory, the first 128 top we've had. How does it feel to be already in the top cut of the Euros?
Feels actually really good. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so grateful to have been able to stream my match and win. I mean, it's a good feeling.
Absolutely, and now you're in the top 64, which is very, very exciting. So let's talk a little bit about your deck. You're playing Flu under ease. The commentators were just saying, did you play in the Italian Championships at all?
I did play into the Italian Championship and I couldn't make it for a match, so I mean, it's fine.
That's fair. Did you happen to see Diego playing this deck while you were there at all?
I did not see him live, but I watched the match with Salaman Great and the final, I mean...
Fair enough. So what made you choose Flu under ease? Because you also have a couple of extra things there, like 2 copies of Book of Moon, and the commentators were saying, never underestimate this deck. Do you feel like that? Do you enjoy playing Flu under ease?
Yeah, I really enjoy playing it, and they are totally right. The meta is not Flu under ease, but if you don't side for it, if you don't have the right card for it, the deck can just snowball and destroy you. Yeah. The 2 Book of Moons, I've been playing them from the start, from where Advent wasn't even out, and they're so helpful. They're so versatile, good going first and second, can cut them.
You had one in your hand in that last game, just sort of ready to go at any moment, just in case, so it's clearly worked. You controlled game 1 pretty well. How did it feel to be up against something like Predaplant Despia? Was that a bit of a whoa kind of moment when you saw that? Because that's quite unusual. Flu under ease is quite unusual, but that's a very unusual deck. How did you handle that?
Yeah, well, I guess it was a breath of fresh air. I've been playing like 7 Sprite today, so it's seeing Cobra. I don't know what it's summoned. It was a breath of fresh air. I know I have a good matchup. I drew Shifter, so I was really happy. Yeah, I was really happy with that.
Excellent. Well, I hope Flu under ease manages to take you all the way to some of those top cuts. Congratulations again, Pietro. Guys, don't go anywhere because we're moving into that top and it's going to be very, very exciting. Do not go anywhere. Top 64 coming right up.